If you go to Kilwa, you go to Shanga, you go to Manda, you go to Mombasa, these were purely African settlements. These were basically African towns run by the Africans, but who were trading with the Arabs and other nationalities from outside.
The Arab writer Al-Masudi, who sailed to the African coast from Oman by dhow in the 10th century, described in detail the inhabitants of what he called the land of Zanj.
The Zanj have an elegant language and men who preach in it. One of their holy men will often gather a crowd and exhort hearers to please God in their lives and to be obedient to Him. He explains the punishments that follow upon disobedience and reminds them of their ancestors and kings of old. These people have no religious law. Their kings rule by custom and political expediency.
A kind of explanation is needed for the book The Boasts of the Blacks Over the Whites. Even mistranslated, as I'm sure this is, a close look at it really makes the idea that the Zanj revolt was primarily a slave revolt seem a lot less probable. First off, the person who posted this on here said that a similar book in defense of Turks was also made. So, it was also done for other groups. So, it's not really a unique thing he's doing for the Zanj. Also through the whole thing, they keep going from black, Negro, Zanj, and it's used interchangeably. That's the translation. Interpretations of things that are going on in the past, and people take these interpretations and just go along with it. But it's, as someone put it before, a colonial imaginary. You kind of have to put that to the side because it's something that someone made up later. And what we're interested in is what's real at this time period. And first off, and Al-Jahiz says, "You mentioned, may Allah protect you from deception, that you read my treatise on the refutation of the pure Arabs to those of mixed parentage, the replies of the mixed ones, and the answers of their maternal uncles. But I did not mention in it anything about the boasts of the Sudan." And that means the boasts of the blacks, literally. That's what it really means. And he says, "So know, may Allah preserve you, that I postponed that intentionally. And you mentioned that you would like me to write of the boasts of the blacks, as I have written what I recall their boasts." Zahiz he's part Zanj, but from the way it's written here, it doesn't look like that's any motivation of why he is writing this. To me, what it looks like he's doing is he is quoting some Zanj people, and Zanj is simply an ethnic group. It's like saying Nubian or Ethiopian. So it doesn't mean black. It's just people, an ethnic group, and this ethnic group just happens to be black. And these Zanj are speaking for the Sudan, which is all black people. So it would be like Ethiopians speaking in behalf of all black people. But the translation is messed up, it seems. And a lot of times when they see black, when it says black, it really means Zanj. But Zanj is just one group of black people. But sometimes they are talking about all black people. And that's common in all literature about Arabic literature on black people. From what I've seen, it's mistranslated. And at the very end of the article, he says, "And this is all that came to my mind about what the blacks could be proud of." He doesn't seem like he has any personal feelings. He's being objective. So he's just quoting. And throughout the whole article or book or whatever, he keeps saying, "The Zanj say," and so on and so on. Now back to the Zanj revolt. If it was a slave revolt, they would be talking about, these Zanj would be talking about how horrible these slaves, or themselves, had it in these salt mines. You know, he'd be at the salt mines asking the Zanj what they're thinking. And none of this, and no part of this, anywhere, I don't see any part of this entire thing where the Zanj complain at all about Arab oppression. The Zanj, they even, one of their boasts is that their country has never been ruled by Arabs. But we ruled their country. They say that they ruled about slaves. Their boasts about black slaves in Arabia. He says, among our good qualities are our good singers, as you can find among the slave girls from Zanj. Also, nobody is a better cook than the black slaves from Zanj. Also, money changers will never entrust their money than to those from Zanj or their descendants, as they are found to be better in those affairs, more alert and worthy of trusting. One hardly ever finds a Greek or a Khurasani in a position of trust in a bank. When the bankers of Basra saw the excellent affairs that a Zanji had negotiated for his master, each of them took a Zanji assistant. They all wanted to make the profit his master had made. S.A. Saban, when writing about the Zanj revolt, and I think he makes a concrete argument that this was not primarily a slave revolt. On page 101, in the middle of the page, he says, the vast majority of the rebels were Arabs, Persian Gulf, supported by free East Africans who had made their home in the region. And their motivation, he says, was these immigrants and control over trade routes, African trade, because they wanted the people in Iraq wanted to tax them, raise taxes, so they revolted. And on page 102, he says, if more proof is needed that it was not a slave revolt, it is to be found in the fact that it had a highly organized army and navy which vigorously resisted the whole weight of the central government for almost 15 years. Moreover, it must have had huge resources that allowed it to build no less than 6 impregnable towns in which there were arsenals for the manufacture of weapons and battleships. These towns also had in their mammoth markets prodigious wealth, which was more than the salt mines of Basra could conceivably produce. Even all the booty from Basra and the whole region could not account for such enormous wealth. Significantly, the revolt had the backing of a certain group of merchants who preserved the support until the very end. Tabari makes it very clear that the strength of the rebels was dependent on the support of these merchants. And he also says that all this talk about slaves revolting because of harsh conditions in salt mines has no place in the sources. It's a figment of the imagination. Also remember, he might be going off of different translation of these same sources as other people. So other people might be coming up with different interpretations because of different translations. There is one more quote from The Glory of the Blacks that I want to serve, so that it wasn't a slave rebellion, and then I'll move on. Al-Jahiz writes, they say, if a Zanj and Zanji woman marry and the children remain after puberty in Iraq, they come to rule the roost thanks to their numbers, endurance, knowledge, and efficiency. I just want to mention Ethiopia. I found a couple articles, in this one conceptualizing and reconceptualizing Africa. On page 41, the first paragraph, the author claims that the idea of Aksumite civilization coming from southern Arabia is a figment of the imagination. And another article, Ethiopia to Yemen by Richard Pankhurst, he quotes one scholar who even claims that instead of immigrants from Yemen going to Ethiopia, this one scholar claims that it went in that opposite direction, from Ethiopia to Yemen. Whether or not that's true, I really don't know much about that. But there's a few articles that claim that immigrants bringing civilization to Ethiopia is an imagination. But what I'm going to close with is this one interesting quote from Ibn Khaldun on the Ethiopians. And I saw this on another video. When Negroes dominated Arabs, part 1. And Ibn Khaldun wrote, from their country of Ethiopia, Yemen once had its king. The king of the Abyssinians was entitled Al-Najashi, and the capital of his kingdom was the city of Kabir. The Abyssinians are Christians, and they said that one of their kings embraced the true faith when Muhammad visited their country in the Hijra. They believe that they are destined to become masters of Yemen and all Arabia. So this shows people from the Horn of Africa having had dreams of invading Arabia again.